I am Chester Dunham, and this is the Dunham Report, a marketplace of ideas, of information for labor, civil rights, and other issues of social justice, and political community activities, and even more. And we do again have a informational show for you, the viewing audience, this afternoon. And Wes, I would like for you to introduce our guests before we get into the show, and let the viewing audience know who our guests are tonight.
Many of you are aware of the fact that the City of Savannah is developing an arena project, and we have with us here today Mr. Peter Shonka, who is the Executive Director of Arena Development. We would like to welcome you, Mr. Shonka, to the show.
Thank you very much.
We are delighted to have you on with us on the show tonight. And recently we are on YouTube and doing a lot of other things, so therefore we gonna be talking about Savannah somewhat, but a few other places too, because now this information is spread some of everywhere, and people are checking us out all over. And but we definitely want to talk about the City of Savannah when we get started, and want to talk about the arena and talk about some other things that's happening in this city. Crenshaw and I are going to maybe just say a couple of three things about, and you don't have to include you in this if you don't want to, but it's the election, because it's not over yet. Throughout the United States, we are watching TV and getting information here and there, but it's still not over, and especially in the state of Georgia. One thing that I look in the paper and I see where, and this was on yesterday, when individuals line up in long line waiting to cast their vote, even up until late last night. Some of the people were standing in line, what the paper said, at least 3-4 hours or more to cast a vote. We just hope that maybe one day that we will make it so much more easier for individuals to cast their vote. One of the key things that have helped us out throughout the United States in those places of state or cities or location where they do this, and that is the early voting. And right here in our neck of the woods, which is Chatham County, our folks was taking advantage of this, and I see in the paper where they said, and this report came out about 10:30 last night when they cut us off, but they were saying that voting took advantage, in other words, voters took advantage of early voting in record numbers for a midterm election. 32,361 voting. In other words, these people voted in person with the early voting, compared to 17,697 in 2014 midterm election. So you can see the increase is almost double, with people going to the poll and taking advantage of this. And then the race is still not over with the state election, and especially with the with the governor's race. And this information here was and of course we done seen upgraded information on TV and everything else since then. But I'm gonna talk about at least 12:30 a.m. this morning, which would have been Wednesday. They said and this is coming from the Secretary of State office reporting that 91% of the votes were in. So it was another 9% or so hadn't came in at that particular time. It said Kemp had at that particular time 1,845,000 vote. 1,845,806 votes, compared to April 1,740,173 votes. And we do know that the winner will have to have at least 50% plus one. Now, what have happened so far with the count and the way they were doing it, that the early voting and the people who had voted, tallied their vote already, who was counted, had large number of people in, which was Kemp, in rural areas, small towns, in other little parts around the state of Georgia, compared to, and this hadn't came in yet, and that's why they hadn't give us a count yet, because they said in the metro around the Atlanta area, where April supporters are more in that area who hadn't been counted yet. So they're waiting until they get all of that information, and then they will let us know, I guess, pretty soon who the winner will be. And that just information again to you, the viewing audience. I see where the first district, where Buddy Carter have already won that particular district. Before we leave from that, you got anything you want to say on that, Rev?
Well, Chester, you know what I said already. I said this last week. I told you that I did not think Stacey was going to win. And the reason being, we as minority groups have depended upon whites to bring us over the line. I told you that when it all come down to it, that we were not going to get a large number of whites to help us across the line. We really don't need that. What we need to do is to get the black people out of the vote. I was talking to some young people the other day, sitting along the street, and I asked if they're going to vote. What do I need to vote? I'm not getting, my vote doesn't count. And my input is that until we get that group of people to the polls, we're always going to be just a little bit short. I did not expect her to, I told you that last week, right?
Yes, you did.
And I told you that when it was all said, and the reason why I based that on an article from the New York Times that says that the majority of white people were going to go home to their tribe or whatever they call it when it gets right down to it, and that's exactly what they did. And so I was not expecting us to win anything until we have enough of us to get us across the line. Once we get enough black people voting, and we do have enough black people, even Kemp said that if all the people who were Democrats, if they voted, that he would lose, because he knows we got more people in the Democrats than the Republicans in the states. But my input is that we really need to get to the point that we need to don't wait until 2 or 3 days before the election and bring Oprah and all these guys, whatever. That we have the way to do it now. With all the hip hop guys and everybody else, we need to be doing this year round until we get all these people elected. Now, Florida is a good example. Okay, they passed a referendum that gives all those felons and they're convicted felons the right to vote now. So there's 1 million people already freed up yesterday that can vote in Florida that couldn't vote the day before. Now, if we were smart, we would immediately start contacting all of those people, put those people on the rolls, and go around and offer them wraparound services that they need as individuals, and we would have them forever.
Well, one thing is that April, in the state of Georgia, and when this thing is over, because, like I said, we go out and get all the correct information, and I'm going to be digging up stuff in little rural towns and everywhere else and count percentage-wise, racial breakdown percentage-wise, because April is getting a lot of support from white. She's getting a lot of support. That's why the race is so close. Number one, the FFL-CIO, the labor movement, we endorsed her, I think it was last year. But the key thing is that individual people need to start taking advantage more of information that's out there, things that will affect you and your family, education, health, all of these other kind of things, and see who is protecting your interests and who's voting on your behalf instead of a bunch of lies and things that be told in these elections. And that's what's happening. But eventually, people will wise up and wake up, and we'll see. But I do know that she got a lot of support. I went to but it was an event at the Longshoremen's Union Hall on Monday that she appeared there, and she had a lot of white support there. So that's what needs to happen. People as a whole, like Pete sitting here, as a whole, we shouldn't look at the situation with parties and color and this and that. We need to look at the factual thing that's going on, and people will wise up and take advantage. Now that's why I'm glad at this balanced scale. Now this scale might work now, because that's the way the framers set it up in the first place. One party dominating everything, this and that. So now it's a balanced type of thing now. So the president can't get out there and go wild and do all these crazy things like he see fit and see if somebody don't hold him in check. But it will be, and that's what the scale is for. That's why the framers talk about this and frame this thing to make sure that these things work. I see where Oprah was, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, was in Atlanta last week supporting Stacey, and she made sure that she let people know that she was there on her own, spending her own money. Well, see, this is the thing that I don't like, that I talk about all the time, but nobody talk about it. Elected officials, TV, media, and everybody else, they don't mention it. I don't know whether they're afraid of President Trump or what it is, but the key thing is he fires up Air Force One, and he go all over the United States, campaigning for people with the taxpayers' money. And nobody would even say these things shouldn't happen. And the same thing with the vice president. Now he done tagging along and spending also. What we need to do is try to figure up and see the amount of money that they're spending and being wasted, and let people know what's going on. And then we're going to move on.
And Chester, did you argue like that when Obama was flying around?
Huh?
Did you argue like that when Obama was using the Air Force One?
Definitely so. If he was using it for the same identical thing, I don't pull no punches.
Okay.
That is correct. Definitely so.
Okay.
If he's using it the same way, they shouldn't do it.
This is what I was saying. You're talking
Did
about.
you want to say anything on that before we leave?
Wait, I'm not through yet.
Go ahead.
The people at the ILA Longshoreman Hall, okay. This is my input. We have all these people that show up, both black, white, brown, all colors. But the issue is, what do they do on voting on the day of the election? And when they go in there and push the buttons, who are they really voting for? So we really don't know. This is why I say that we have to depend upon ourselves to get our people out to the polls, and not depend on it. And if we get other people to help us, that's fine. But think about it. If either Gillum or Abrams have gotten more of us to the polls, we would have won last night. And we're not talking about a lot of votes.
Well, it's not over yet, so we're going to see.
Well, I don't trust Kim, but I think it's over. They got
and I think candidate Abrams' message on health care resonated with a lot of folks across racial and political lines. Again, it was, as you were saying, Mr. Dunham, who's representing us and what are our issues as families. And again, I think that her health care message resonated with a lot of people, whereas the other candidate didn't have a lot to say about health care.
Right. That is correct. Nothing at all. Hardly. Let's talk about Savannah somewhat, and I'm going to let you talk about a great deal. For the last few weeks or longer than that, we had been talking about and having meetings and being various places and talking about the big project that we have here in Savannah. And you all, the viewing audience in other cities and other places, we do have some an arena that we are being putting together now to start construction and start building it. And he was introduced, and he's with the City of Savannah. And I'm gonna let Pete take the lead, and we're gonna start talking about the project that we have here in Savannah. Before that, because I saw in the paper the other day, I didn't get to that. I've been trying to get to most of them. But I saw where they had Savannah Arena unveil the goal, to the general public. And that, in the newspaper, it was October 30, which was just the other day, October 31st, 2018. And they're talking about, in the paper they had it, in addition to a minimum amount of bricks, and glass and cement and what all it takes to build these projects, that they had here, I think it was about 100 or so residents at this event, and the expert, which would have been you all, was explaining in detail and showing them about the new arenas. And I saw, and don't have a copy, but I saw it in the newspaper where they had 3 different designs.
Right.
And we can start out talking about that. But I just want to let the people know what's going on here in Savannah and what we are doing.
Okay, yeah. So that, we've really been studying this for quite a long time. In fact, I've had some involvement on this project since 2002, believe it or not. I was working with Tom Perdue at the time on working with some storm issues and floodplain issues, because the area that we're coming in to develop is a lot of it's low-lying land. But what we've been doing here the last few months is we have the council has made an award to a design team, and so they went to work, and we came up with, I would say there's 2 elements to the project. So we have what you'd call an interior bowl design. It's kind of the seating configuration, and concessions and all those other things that go around the concourse, the main concourse of the arena. And then you have the skin design. And so in this meeting on October 30th, we did a presentation on the bowl design, which again really had to do with a lot of the program elements. What our Barrett Sports Group did our feasibility study for the project, and so they kind of spelled out, what that we should have in there, and the council kind of approved that program. So, one of the things is we want a lot of different seating options. So you have just a tremendous amount is in this bowl configuration. We have club seats, you have corporate suites, you have loges, you have up on the 3rd deck, which is usually the kind of least desirable seats, but because of how they've designed it, they may be one of the most desirable seats. Even though you're a little bit farther from the action, it's still an intimate setting, but then you have this interaction with the overlooking the canal and downtown Savannah from that 3rd level. And then you also have that option on the main concourse where you can step outside and overlook the canal and also the plaza where the entrance to the arena is. So that, I think, is something that people are really excited about. The seating options, the interaction you have with that environment around the new arena, and how that's going to really transform that area. Now with the skin, with the exterior finishes, in the 3 renderings, what the designer tried to do was present kind of variable options of different materials. So they had a brick option that had a wraparound porch that kind of overlooked the canal and again, that plaza area that's at the entrance. They had another one that was mostly glass. So you had kind of a glass exterior with metal panel, and then that glass provided you that overlook. But you weren't outside, you were inside looking out. You did have both porches that you could go outside on overlooking the canal at the concourse level, and then on that 3rd level as well. And then they had a 3rd rendering with a design that showed precast concrete panels as the exterior. and it had a lattice kind of structure providing a lot of shade around so when you're coming up to the entrance and kind of getting ready to queue up and get into the line to get into the arena, you have some shade and that kind of thing. And part of the inspiration around that as well was, even when the arena is not in use, when you don't have an event there, we want this area to be active and engaged and in use. In that plaza area, we're looking at the possibility of kind of having markets there on weekends, like we have sometimes on River Street. So that would be kind of along the canal and the plaza, and having that lattice structure provide a little bit of shade for that kind of event. Also, having a full-service restaurant in the bottom of the canal that fronts, in the bottom of the arena that fronts the canal. So again, whether the arena has an event or not, you have this opportunity to patronize that restaurant and be right there on the canal with sidewalk dining, canal side dining, and that kind of thing. So it's a great location. Again, we put out those 3 different kinds of materials in the exterior to get feedback from the citizens of Savannah. And in something like that, you're always going to have kind of conflicting views. So we had a number of people that said, hey, I like the exterior materials, I like the concrete, the metal panels. Don't want to see any more brick. We have enough brick already in Savannah. And then you had a number of people that said, some of the metal panel and concrete in particular looked a little bit cold. We think that using a brick exterior would warm that up. But generally speaking, people really liked the fact that you're overlooking the canal, you're overlooking the entrance area, that activity that's happening outside, so that you can step outside of the arena and kind of be on that porch and overlook. So we received a lot of very favorable feedback on that. Again, we've got to take the information we got in that meeting, and the feedback's been really great. People really took a lot of time and really gave a lot of thought to the feedback they gave us. So it's very good feedback we have. And so then how do we incorporate brick like they want to see, and then other materials to kind of break that up so you don't have an 80-foot tall brick wall.
Now, you answered some questions, because I was going to be asking you some things, but you answered some of those questions, and that's one of the key things that you, the viewing audience, need to understand. That at least council is trying to want to include the whole city of people who live here, to deal with the input, with the ideas and all of these things. Like Peter just said, that they got a lot of feedback from different individuals, but things that they like and maybe dislike, or to give them some kind of idea moving forward with this project. They just don't want to just take it and just throw something up there and didn't get the community involvement. So that's at least what they are trying to do. And they are not stopped yet. They are continue doing some things and getting the community involved.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And one other thing you mentioned, that we're talking about an arena, but it's much more than an arena. And where they entertain people with sports and what have you, because you're talking about, you're not going to be playing basketball, hockey, and all the other things all the time. So you're getting, other words, they're putting things there that activities and things will be going on all the time, that you will be involved with this thing. And these are some of the things that I appreciate that information, and we're going to still be talking about it. Wes?
Well, I had 2 questions. Mainly the questions deal with the idea of what kind of construction we're going to have down there, given the fact that we are right on the river, basically. I'm concerned about storms and the material that they use. Will this building be able to withstand, say, a hurricane level 3?
Yeah, I think it'll withstand a hurricane, a Cat 3 hurricane, and I think it can withstand that without damage. We're looking at the arena floor being about elevation 12,
Okay.
which is 3 feet what the flood elevation is in that area. So they just revised the maps and they have the floodplain as 9 feet in that area, and we're looking at 12 for the arena floor. We haven't got into the nitty-gritty aspects of design. Could we, make sure that there's nothing electrical or any mechanical equipment below, elevation 14 or something, so that buys you another couple feet in case you really have, the really huge storm that comes in and floods that area. That makes it a lot more resilient. So it's not going to keep it from being flooded, but you'll be able to get the thing back up and running much more quickly without having to replace a lot of equipment and things. One of the things that we've talked about is, do you use this as a shelter in the event of a storm of that magnitude? And that's something that's still being debated. The trouble is, even if you were to design it to withstand Cat 4 or 5 without damage, that may be the only thing left standing around it. And so then if you have 5,000 people or something housed there, and they come out, and then you've got, you don't have a power grid that's intact, you don't have drinking water that's clean, you don't have a sewer system that's working. What do you do with all those people? So really, when you start to get up in those higher category storms, it's really a whole lot better for people to get out of the area off the coast and then deal with what we have to deal with before we bring them back.
Well, who are the people that you all are designing this for? I got the impression that the years I've been in Savannah that certain specific acts, entertainment acts, were not allowed in Savannah because of the hip hop movement and stuff like this. Are we going to limit the types of people that we can perform in the arena? And is the arena going to be made of such material such that the everyday use is going to stand up for a while?
Well, first question, absolutely not. The overriding input we've gotten from the citizens of Savannah is they want a very diverse variety of events in the arena. And so they want sports, they want concerts of all type. Anything that you can do in arena, people have talked about. We do a lot of our graduations in our high school and college graduations in our current facility. So, we're set up to do that. High school sports, basketball and wrestling tournaments, we want to have that availability, as well as college tournaments here as well. This is going to be a really special venue, and no, we are not in any way, shape, or form trying to limit who can come here and who can't. The problem with the current facility we have, and why it doesn't work very well with concerts, is concerts today have a lot of equipment with them, the lighting and all of that, and it's very, very heavy. And our current facility is not structurally made to hang all of this lighting, all of these other special effects from the ceiling. And so certainly that's, we're going to have a state-of-the-art design that has a structural grid that can handle all of that equipment and all those special effects. Vitally important, not just for concerts, but for Cirque du Soleil and those type of events too. So, no, everybody has spoken about how they want a huge variety. They want it there for the entire community. And along those same lines, I'll say, we've heard a lot already from some of the challenged people in our community, people who have special challenges with hearing and eyesight and physical challenges, mobility challenges, and how do we make this facility available for them? And so we've gotten some great input from them, and we're going, way above and beyond what is required by the ADA requirements. So again, we're trying to be just as inclusive as we can possibly be in this facility.
Now, I know a lot of folks, and they're wondering right now, when they look at the show, A lot of people know where it's located, and a lot of people don't have an eye or don't even think about where it's gonna be, where's the location. Let's talk about the facilities and the location, the boundary and street and stuff, so they would know, especially those who live in the city would know exactly where this arena will be built.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a very good location for ingress and egress. So it's right off of the Gwinnett Street exit off of I-16. And so that provides really easy access in and out of that area. And so it's a short drive up Gwinnett Street to Stiles. You turn right on Stiles, and that's the location right there, very near the intersection of Gwinnett and Stiles. Now, the city has currently on that site, not the actual arena site, but right next door to it is our Public Works yard. So it's a very industrial area. A lot of the industry is not fully active now. So that a lot of the property in that area is underutilized, which makes it such an attractive area to put this venue, because there's lots of undeveloped land or underutilized land that can be redeveloped, and people don't look at it as being very close to the downtown, but it's actually very close. So if you go to the intersection of Boundary Street and Louisville Road, kind of the bottom of the hill there where that beautiful railroad arch viaduct is, and it's right next to the visitor center. That's right next to the Roundhouse Museum. It's a half-mile walk from there, so it's a 10-minute walk from that location to the new site.
One of the questions that I had was, okay, the arena is coming down there. I know what you're talking about, the place is. My question is, what's happening to the property values of the people who live down there? Once they find out the development is coming, you get all kinds of people trying to buy property. Is the city doing anything to make sure that those people are not taxed out of their properties, especially some of the elderly?
Yeah, so I think what you're seeing property that you can develop commercially is going up. I mean, there's a lot of speculation going on. But in the neighborhoods where the zoning is different and it's zoned residential, I don't think that you're seeing any kind of real jump in property values there. So I don't think that we have that concern at this point in time. Okay. And I think that through kind of doing a zoning overlay for the area that we want to redevelop, allowing that to be more densely developed than you would say a residential single family classification, that will keep the development in those areas and not really encourage developers to go looking and trying to rezone properties. It's hard to put together a developable block when you have properties where you're on quarter-acre lots or so. So I don't. There's so much undeveloped land or underutilized land in that area. I just don't see someone going the hard route of trying to go into a residential neighborhood and try to redevelop that.
What about the transportation, the getting people off the interstate into that area, and how is that going to affect the general layout of the streets that we have there? Or have you guys gotten that far yet? Yeah,
so we do need to make some improvements to Gwinnett Street. So we're just going to add a lane in each direction there. So it'll go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. It's already 4 lanes to the east of that location, but we're going to continue the 4 lanes on to Stiles. And then we'll also widen Stiles, but only from, well, right now the plan is only to do it from Gwinnett Street to the arena itself. If you go in and you put 4 lanes in a whole bunch of other different directions, then you're inviting people to take those roads, and that's going to cause issues with the neighborhoods. By having your easy access points to the interstate and to Highway 17, that will give the most encouragement for people to take those routes in and out. Now, there are a number of other different ways in and out of the area, and some people are going to take those, but you're not going to see the crowds and crowds of people go in those other ways. It's not conducive to that.
I see the state is making some adjustments to the I-16 and 95 exchange. What about the overfly part that's downtown 16?
The flyover?
Yeah.
So the flyover is not really a part of this project in any way. It doesn't really have any effect on it. So if the flyover were to be removed, it wouldn't, cause any sort of issue with access to the arena by Gwinnett Street. If it stays, likewise, it doesn't really matter. The land that could be redeveloped as a result of the flyover coming out, again, doesn't sync up well with the Canal District because Chatham Steel is still there, and also you just have a lot of lower-lying property there. So you've never had the grid. The street grid, the Oglethorpe plan has never really continued over into this area that we're looking to redevelop.
Well, you got two business there off of Style, which is one on one corner, which is the east south corner, and you got two. You got one on one corner, and you got one on the next corner.
Yes, you have Shepherd's
and Shepherd and
gas station and Jackson Brothers.
Jackson.
Yep.
You plan to try to buy those, or they will stay in business just as they are so far as the zoning, or how that will work?
Yeah, we're not changing the zoning there. I mean, there will be opportunities, I guess, for if they wanted to do something else, but we are having to pick up a little bit of property from both of them to widen the streets there. But it's a minimal amount from Shepherd's. It's a little bit more from Jackson, but it won't really impact their operations currently, not severely anyway. But again, there will be opportunity there if they wanted to do something different on those sites. That's something that they'll have to reevaluate was that as the arena gets on board and we start seeing the other development come in. But no, we don't intend to buy them or out or close down those businesses.
Do we have in the plans things such as convenience stores or gas stations that would be able to service that area once they're up and running?
Well, yeah, again, Jackson Brothers, I guess they do a lot of auto work and gas. I don't think that they're much of a convenience store now. Would it be better if there was a convenience store / gas station there? That's something that they'll have to evaluate and decide if they want to change their business plan or sell to someone who does. But Shepherd's, they are a little bit of a convenience store now, and certainly that could continue on in operation after this.
I look at the site plan and the different ones, and I heard you talking about it, and it looks really, it's beautiful. However you set it up, because it's not just old dull looking something. It's some new design, new everything, and it just looked like, I think it's going to be awesome when everything is in place, and I'm pretty sure that Savannah needs something like that. And we'll make sure that we continue being involved with the city of New Orleans and any update and everything else that's going on. We will make sure that the overall community and then other location, other places, and spread this out throughout the United States, because Savannah is what do we rank now in being in a visit city? We numbers.
Yeah, I'm not sure the numbers, but yeah, we make a lot of top 10 lists of destinations that favorite travel destinations, and that's really what we're trying to do in this new canal district is use the Springfield Canal and Savannah-Ogeechee Canal, who come together right in that area, and an asset that kind of has been overlooked. We haven't really used it. So by doing some improvements there, we think that we'll be able to run canal boats up and down like they do in other cities, San Antonio and other places. So that's, we think, a good way to kind of call attention to an asset that we've kind of ignored for a long time. The canal front area, at least between Gwinnett and in the arena, we would love that to look kind of like River Street in some ways, is just have a lot of activity, a lot of restaurants and fun places to go there. So trying to create a destination there where people want to come in there, even if there's not something going on in the arena.
Okay, one other thing I need to ask, because a lot of people was inquiring about trying to find out, seek information on businesses
Yes.
in that area. And I told them that I'm pretty sure that it'll be places available for rent and to open up different type of businesses or what have you. How that will go once you, so far as individuals who are interested in opening up a restaurant or opening up clothing, opening up whatever, how the city is going to work that or provide space for, and who would be able to rent and how they would be able to do this thing. Once you have that in the plan?
Well, it's something that, yes, it is something that we have in a plan. I wouldn't say the plan is fully developed at this point, but so the first opportunity there is inside the arena itself or immediately outside the arena. Setting up concessions where small local business has an opportunity there. And hopefully small local minority business has an opportunity there. Outside the arena, again, I think that creates an atmosphere and a real potential for someone that's trying to get a business started. So maybe you're not ready for brick and mortar, but maybe you have food truck or a food cart of some sort. That atmosphere right outside the arena along that canal walk is going to be a great place to have those kind of opportunities, and controlled by the city. And so I think that will be able to, kind of leave lots of opportunity again for small business and minority business there. Now, once you get into kind of the development of brick and mortar, it becomes more market regulated. But again, trying to find a way to set that aside, and there are ways to do that, I think, to set aside some areas for, again, small business and minority business to occupy some of those spaces so that it's not just all completely driven by the market.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is this arena design having any effect on the historic designation of Savannah?
No, not on Savannah or on the historic designation of Carver Village either. So Carver Village, as you may know, is kind of in the middle of trying to achieve designation as a historic neighborhood. It's been approved by the state, and I think they're now under review by the National Park Service before they get the federal certification for it. So, no, we're very careful about whatever we're doing. In fact, we've moved the facility a little bit to the north. Again, it moves it a little bit further away from that area, and I think brings that activity just slightly further from the neighborhood, so it's not as much of an impact.
Does the arena have its own parking?
Yes, so so for a facility of that size, you're probably so it's about 9,000 seats typically. So you'd want to have about 3,000 parking spaces. Again, we have kind of limited property there to work with, so we're looking really at structured parking. And structured parking for events of that type doesn't work well if it's a large garage. So if you have a garage that's 1,000 or 1,200 spaces and everybody's trying to get out of there at the same time, it doesn't work real great. But if you have a few different garages that are 700 and less, it works a little bit better. So we have a lot of experience with that at the Liberty Street garage that's right across the street from our current. And I've parked there several times, and it is a little bit of a wait coming out of there after an event, but it's not crazy long. It's 15, 20 minutes, and then you're out of there. So you want to try to limit your garages to kind of a smaller number of spaces than have just one huge one. And so I think that we've got a plan that we can do that. The other trick with building a lot of parking spaces is if you're only going to use those spaces for when the arena's in play, then those aren't being sold enough. And so how do we encourage commuters that are coming into town to jump off of the interstate and park there and be shuttled into downtown? So we'll incentivize that through price, so you can make that a lot cheaper to park out there, but also through development. If you have the right kind of services there that are convenient for people, that again helps people come off. Or if you can encourage a developer to come in that area and do some office, that's a great companion use, because that office use is parking during the day and arenas mostly at night. Now, the other thing we have that I think is a tremendous asset is we have a lot of nighttime capacity, because downtown Savannah is a business center, and so the garages fill up during the day, but at night we have a lot of capacity there. And so can we encourage people to park in garages that we already have at night? So that Liberty Street garage, the Robbie Robinson garage, and then that's a short shuttle ride then from there to the new arena site. So again, if we can encourage that through pricing, and we have a good shuttle system, hopefully we encourage people to do that. And then we're not building 3,000 spaces, maybe we're building 2,000 spaces. But yeah, we are going to have to build parking.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I just thought about that also, about parking, because it's so hectic now to park.
It is very difficult sometimes
in
downtown.
the area downtown and
Yeah.
other places you go, forever trying to find a place to park. If you park, you're 1,000 miles away. It's inconvenient, everything else. So if we can, because we don't have Martyr and stuff here in this area, but if we can get some, like you say, shutter and stuff, taking people around and picking them up and this and that, it'll be so much better, because
We have that.
it's so much more convenient to you park a certain place and then you shutter right there, you come and go where you want to go and then go back.
Yeah, we have 2 free shuttle routes now operating in downtown, and the ridership for those is increasing a little bit slowly, but it is increasing. And also the Parking Matter study that we did a couple years ago, one of the main recommendations that came out of that was don't build any more garages downtown, build garages on the fringe of downtown, which I would consider the Arena and Canal District on the fringe of downtown. So again, by building parking there, we're going to try to free up some spaces downtown and make downtown a lot more convenient for people coming in to eat at restaurants and shop there. So there will be some capacity hopefully freed up. And we're also, have partnered with a developer of Eastern Wharf there on the east side of Savannah, just on the east side of downtown. We're doing one garage there now, and we'll be following with the second one at some point. So, and how that came about, we had bought the Tybee Depot property many, many years ago and had planned to do a large garage there at some point.
Where's that?
The Tybee Depot property is just on the south side of President Street, really just at the bottom of the hill.
What's the hotel name? TGI Fridays.
Marriott, yeah. So the Marriott,
Yeah.
but the Tybee Depot property though is actually to the south of there. It's right off President Street, just at the bottom of the hill. So the city owns that parcel, but when the developer of Eastern Wharf came in and said, "Hey, we'd rather you built the garage over here, and we'll give you the land to do that," we looked at that, and they're going to build some demand into the parking garage. They're going to pay for it. And so that helps make that garage a lot more affordable for the city. It makes it easier for us to sell those spaces multiple times every day, which is what we're trying to do everywhere. And then frees up that parcel on the south side of President Street to do something else with that.
So you're gonna, over Styles, where the arena is gonna be, that property that you're using now with the city, and they got all different type of activities going on there. You're gonna move all of that away?
The Public Works facility?
all
Yes,
public
yeah.
works.
So
Okay.
the city owns property out Gwinnett Street, out by where the school bus
Depot.
place is.
Yeah.
And maintenance shop is, and it's Interchange Court is the name of the street. But yeah, so we're moving our Public Works facility out there. It's under design now. So that'll be the principal location for it, and then sanitation is going to possibly another location. But yeah, that'll all free up that whole site. So that's I think about an 8-acre parcel that'll be right next to the arena that will likely be redeveloped in some kind of, planned private development.
What is the expected life use of this facility?
Well, the current one we have is going on 50. Yeah, and so I think that's not typical. I think usually they're more like 30, 40 years. But, I think that particularly the bowl design, I think is just going to work so well. And if we can come up with a skin design that people really like and think of as timeless, maybe, we just keep renovating it for a little bit longer time than that. So it's really hard to put a time span on it. And technology changing so rapidly, it's just kind of how easy is it to retrofit that. But we would love to have it around for 40 or 50 years. We would love to create something that's that good.
I see in the paper again and we're talking about this a great deal, and individual talk about it also a lot of time in conversation, and that is, I see the other day with a man, the alderman's thinking about what the city should do about the downtown civic center, where we, because when the arena comes in, so we wouldn't need the civic center. So they was trying to debate and trying to decide and get information on what will be done or what they're talking about so far as over there. I've heard them say 2 or 3 different things. They're talking about the what is the theater part? That's
the Johnny Mercer Theater.
Johnny Mercy,
yes.
And then also the other arena part over there. What you think of what's being talked about now with that project?
So I think the consensus is that the arena, the old arena, when we have the new one built and ready to go, that the old one needs to come down, and then work to put the street grid back in place there, and then create those development blocks that would then be perhaps sold off and redeveloped and put on the tax rolls. What we do with the Johnny Mercer Theater, I think that decision has not been made. I think that the ULI group that came in and kind of did the study, I think their recommendation was to take the Johnny Mercer down as well. I know that the city has not made the final decision on that. And I've heard a lot of good arguments on both sides of that issue. Part of the argument of take it down, that allows you to put back, I think it's Elbert Square, that was decimated there when they ran Montgomery Street straight through the square, and then they put the theater and the arena kind of on top of it. So you'd be able to get that square back, and that's always been a goal of the city, is to try to get all of our squares back. We have, I think, one other one that's covered there just down the street by the courthouse or by a parking garage there. So that's an argument for, is just trying to put that Oglethorpe plan back into place, and that's the charm of Savannah, is the squares and our street grid, and that's kind of a major disruption to it. But the other thing is that that's a great theater. We don't have anything else like that in Savannah. We have other about 1,000-seat arenas, but we don't have anywhere else that has 2,500 seats like that facility does. And so, and the new arena's going to do concerts well, it's going to do sports well, it's going to do all these other things really, really well, but it's not going to do very well as theater type productions. And so, I guess the question is do we need, a 2,000 seat facility that does theater productions well, or as a more intimate setting, for certain concerts. So that's something that has to be sorted through, and a decision will be made at some point in time. I think that what you could easily do is when the new arena opens up, take the old arena down, put the street grid back where that is, and then maybe you continue to use the Johnny Mercer Theater for a while you're trying to decide if you're going to build a new one or how you're going to handle that, or if you do major renovation of that facility.
Honestly, it never occurred to me that they were thinking of building a new quote-unquote arena and leaving Johnny Mercer there. To me, that's almost like a waste of cost. I cannot believe they could not come up with a design that would take care of all their needs in what I call an arena, Johnny Mercer type style. So it doesn't call. So you're talking about taking down the arena, but leaving Johnny Mercer there and building a new arena?
Correct. Yeah, we're building a new arena, which is the building that we have now has the arena on one side and the Johnny Mercer Theater on the other. It's actually two separate buildings. They're kind of semi-connected, but not really. And so two completely different facilities, two completely different uses. You can't do concerts in either one, but that's about the extent of the crossover there.
I see something else because Savannah is still growing and still got new things happening. And this is a major project. And I saw in the paper where they said, well, because I knew they've been doing some things and continue doing things, and I'd be involved in looking at things and keeping up with stuff. And they said, this one here is developers bring new life to Savannah waterfront. All the words in developing things and bringing new life to waterfront. They specifically talk about the waterfront. And they say the Eastern Walk development, which broke ground, they just broke ground about a couple of weeks ago or not.
That's right, yep.
Long. And they said Savannah Riverwalk and include I didn't realize it was that much, Crenshaw might know, this here is just dealing with a 2 acre of land. But beyond that, I read something else where some more development is going to be taking place they got 54 acres of land further down, President.
So that whole site goes from the Marriott,
right?
So
from
General McIntosh,
right,
on the west, and it goes over to the Bilbo Canal on the east, and then from Savannah River to President Street. That block is about 55 acres, and so that's what was the Savannah River Landing. They've changed the name to Eastern Wharf, and so the western half, we'll say, of that property is going to be more commercial, multifamily, retail, and the eastern roughly half is going to be townhome and that kind of development. So it'll be more single family, at least up by the river. The eastern, I guess southeastern section, they're really not sure what's going to be there yet. But it's a huge development. It's right adjacent to downtown. I don't know how many residential units they're potentially going to put in there, but it's going to be a fairly dense development. And we have the Riverwalk extension there, and then we're working on a SPOS-funded project that will connect that Riverwalk around the Marriott to the Riverwalk that exists to the west.
I'm just a little concerned about the Elba Island thing there. You are going to have this heavily dense area there, and is there a potential for a disaster to have the liquefied nitrogen over there?
Liquefied natural gas.
Yeah.
I think it's far enough away where this facility is not going to have to worry about that too much. I think the concern is really the developments that are out on Wilmington Island, and I don't know how risky that is at this point myself either. I'm just not an expert on that kind of concern.
This other project we was talking about, we probably have to bring you back again or someone else and talk about it a great deal more, which is this project, because I see where I think it's at least 2 or 3 corporations, or either they merge or businesses coming together to develop that property over there. I think it mentioned something about $600 million or something of money going to be involved.
Yeah, so in Eastern Wharf, I think they've looked at $600 million to be the investment in there and building everything they're going to do. There's a lot of different types of development there. So I think it's about 11 acres have been sold to a company that does the townhome and more the single family type product. That's again on that northeastern quadrant of the property. And then the western half is going to be more multifamily, hotel, office, commercial, retail kind of development there, with restaurants up on the river. And again, trying to engage and liven up that Riverwalk area.
You know, time is coming to an end.
Okay.
We are we're pleased and delighted having you on the show with us tonight, and that we're going to bring you back on real soon, because you provided us and the viewing audience with a whole lot of valuable information concerning the arena and what's going on now in the city. So we're going to, from time to time, come back, and we again appreciate having you on with us.
Been my pleasure.
Okay, viewing audience, you had been watching the Dunham Report, where you, the community, come first, keeping a focus on the future. So, subscribe to our challenge, because we'll just be talking about YouTube now. Like us on Facebook. If you like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. See you next week. Good night.